Lily Carter ran. Her bare feet pounded the pavement. The cold night air stung her lungs, each breath a shallow gasp. Fear, raw and consuming, lent wings to her feet. She didn't dare look back. The image of the house, a looming silhouette against the moonlit sky, was seared into her memory. A place of nightmares, a prison she had finally escaped. The taste of freedom was bittersweet, tinged with terror. Every rustle of leaves, every shadow seemed to hold the threat of pursuit. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat urging her onward. She had to keep running. She had to find help. She had to survive. Headlights cut through the darkness, momentarily blinding her. The night was thick, almost suffocating, and the sudden burst of light was both a shock and a beacon. A truck rumbled closer, its engine a roar in the stillness. The sound was a stark contrast to the eerie silence that had enveloped the deserted road. Lily hesitated, fear warring with hope. She had been walking for hours, her feet aching, her mind racing with thoughts of what could go wrong. This could be her salvation or her doom. The truck could be driven by a kind soul or someone with ill intentions. The uncertainty gnawed at her, but she knew she couldn't stay on the road much longer. She had to take the chance. The alternative was to keep walking into the unknown, with no guarantee of finding help. Stepping into the road, she raised her hands, a fragile barrier against the oncoming vehicle. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in her ears. The truck screeched to a halt, its brakes protesting. The sound was deafening, but it was a relief to see the vehicle stop. A man emerged, his face etched with concern as he took in her disheveled appearance, the fear in her eyes. He looked rugged, but there was a softness in his gaze that gave her a glimmer of hope. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice gruff but kind. The question was simple, but it carried a weight of genuine concern. Lily nodded, words failing her. She had so much to say, but the relief of finding someone willing to help rendered her momentarily speechless. "Get in," he said, opening the passenger door. The invitation was a lifeline, a promise of safety in the midst of her turmoil. "I'll take you to safety." His words were a balm to her frayed nerves, and as she climbed into the truck, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, things would be all right. The police arrived at the house with sirens blaring, their urgency cutting through the stillness of the night. Their flashing lights painted the night in stark hues of red and blue, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding buildings. The scene that greeted them was like something out of a horror movie, a tableau of terror that defied belief. The house, once seemingly ordinary, now exuded an aura of menace, its windows dark and foreboding, its walls whispering secrets of unspeakable acts. The air hung heavy with the stench of decay, a miasma that clung to the senses and hinted at the horrors within. Inside, they discovered a scene of unimaginable depravity. The rooms were filled with the detritus of human suffering, each corner a testament to the cruelty that had taken place. Rooms were fitted with locks and bars, makeshift cells designed to hold prisoners. These were not just rooms, they were cages, designed to strip away any semblance of humanity. The walls were scratched and stained, silent witnesses to the horrors endured within. Each mark told a story of struggle, of desperate attempts to escape. And then there were the others, girls trapped in a nightmare not unlike Lily's. Their eyes, wide with fear, darted around the room, searching for any sign of hope. Their faces, etched with a mixture of relief and terror, told a story that words could not express. The relief of being found, the terror of what they had endured, all captured in a single glance. The police moved quickly to comfort the girls, offering blankets and water, trying to provide some semblance of safety in the midst of chaos. Meanwhile, the forensic team began their grim task, meticulously examining the scene and collecting evidence. Each piece of evidence was a puzzle piece, a clue to the horrors that had unfolded. The officers exchanged grim looks, their faces reflecting the gravity of the situation. They knew that this was just the beginning, that the full extent of the horror was yet to be uncovered. One officer, his face set in a determined expression, vowed silently to bring those responsible to justice. This was not just a case, it was a mission to restore some semblance of order to a world that had been shattered. As the first light of dawn began to break, the house stood as a silent witness to the night's events. The horrors of the night were slowly giving way to the promise of a new day, a day that would bring justice and healing. The police cars began to drive away, their lights no longer flashing, leaving the house in the morning light. The nightmare was over, but the journey to recovery was just beginning. One of the girls, her face now showing a glimmer of hope, looked towards the horizon. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of hope. Back at the police station, the officers continued their work, piecing together the evidence, determined to bring those responsible to justice. The horror had been unveiled, but the fight for justice had just begun. Harold Gibbons, the man who orchestrated this house of horrors, was apprehended trying to flee. He was a master manipulator, a wolf in sheep's clothing. To the outside world, he was a respectable businessman, a pillar of the community, but behind the facade lurked a predator, a monster who preyed on the innocent. His capture brought a wave of relief, a collective sigh of horror and disgust. The community, once oblivious to the darkness in their midst, reeled in shock. How could someone they knew, someone they trusted, be capable of such monstrous acts? The answer, as the investigation would reveal, lay buried in Gibbons' past, a past shrouded in darkness. The investigation into Harold Gibbons' life uncovered a chilling pattern of abuse and manipulation. His story is one that sends shivers down the spine, a tale of a man who lived in the shadows, always evading the light of justice. His past was littered with broken relationships, failed businesses, and shattered dreams. Each failed venture and each broken bond left a trail of despair and confusion in its wake. Those who crossed paths with him often found themselves ensnared in a web of deceit and betrayal, and a string of accusations that never led to convictions. Despite numerous allegations, the evidence always seemed to slip through the cracks, leaving victims without closure, and Gibbons free to continue his dark deeds. The legal system, it seemed, was no match for his cunning. He was a chameleon, adapting to his surroundings with an almost supernatural ease. Whether in the bustling city or the quiet countryside, Gibbons could blend in seamlessly, changing his appearance and demeanor to suit his needs. This ability made him nearly impossible to track, always one step ahead of the law. Interviews with former neighbors, acquaintances, and even distant relatives painted a picture of a man who was always on the move, never staying in one place long enough to be caught. His transient lifestyle was a key part of his strategy, and even distant relatives painted a picture of a man with a hair-trigger temper, prone to sudden outbursts of rage. Those who knew him described a volatile personality, someone who could switch from charming to terrifying in an instant, a man who exerted control over every aspect of his life. Gibbons was a master manipulator, using fear and intimidation to bend others to his will. His need for control extended to every relationship, every business deal, and every interaction. There were whispers of violence, of dark deeds carried out in the dead of night, Rumors swirled about his involvement in various criminal activities, though nothing could ever be proven. The fear he instilled in those around him ensured their silence, of strange comings and goings at odd hours. Neighbors reported seeing shadowy figures entering and leaving his residence at all hours, adding to the air of mystery and danger that surrounded him. These nocturnal activities only deepened the suspicion and unease. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly falling into place as investigators painstakingly pieced together the fragments of his life. Each new discovery brought them closer to understanding the true extent of his crimes, revealing the portrait of a predator who had honed his skills over a lifetime. Gibbons was not just a man with a dark past. He was a predator who had perfected his methods, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. His story serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a seemingly ordinary facade. Section 6. Justice Prevails. The trial of Harold Gibbons was a media spectacle. The courtroom was packed with reporters, curious onlookers, and most importantly, the survivors of his crimes. Lily, her voice trembling but resolute, took the stand and recounted her ordeal. Her testimony, raw and powerful, sent chills down the spines of everyone present. The jury's verdict was swift and unanimous, guilty on all counts. The judge, his face grim, sentenced Gibbons to multiple life terms, ensuring that he would never again have the opportunity to hurt another innocent soul. Justice, though long overdue, had finally been served. Section 7. Healing the Wounds. The road to recovery was long and arduous. Lily and the other survivors were haunted by nightmares, plagued by flashbacks, and crippled by anxiety. The trauma they had endured had left invisible scars, deep wounds that ran to the very core of their beings. But they were not alone. Therapists, counselors, and support groups provided a safe haven, a space where they could confront their demons and begin to heal. With each passing day, each shared story, each tear shed and comforted, they took a step closer to reclaiming their lives. Section 8. A Voice for the Voiceless. Lily, once a victim, found her voice. She became an advocate for other survivors of abuse, using her platform to raise awareness, challenge stigmas, and demand justice. Her story, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, resonated with audiences around the world. She spoke at rallies, gave interviews, and worked tirelessly to establish shelters and support networks for those who had suffered in silence. Her courage inspired countless others to come forward, to break free from the chains of abuse and to reclaim their lives. Section 9. Triumph of the Human Spirit. Lily's story is a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows, but it is also a powerful testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dare to fight back. Her escape was an act of extraordinary bravery, a spark of defiance that ignited a firestorm of justice. Her journey from victim to survivor to advocate is an inspiration to us all. It reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable horror, hope can endure, resilience can blossom, and the human spirit can triumph over adversity.